Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud, and I interview industry changers from across the globe about their past, present, and futures in business, innovation, and life. I enjoy helping people build their portfolios and bring out the authenticity of their business. Let's get started with today's guest. Thank you and welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from right now?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Robert Murray. I'm calling from Waxhaw, North Carolina, where I basically work at two jobs as full-time engineer by day and mayor of the town of Waxhaw by night.
You're helping innovate, huh? So tell me about your past leading up into your present.
Yeah, so I guess how far back do you want to go?
Whatever correlates with, and connects to the other storyline that makes the product of the story.
So I was born and raised in California, in a town or basically a suburb of Oakland, California, kind of right across the bay in a small city called Alameda. Basically grew up there, went to college at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, which is a college town kind of right in between Los Angeles and San Francisco. After college, got a job in Santa Rosa, which is about an hour north of San Francisco. And it's also known as the sort of the gateway to the wine country. Really nice area. Worked there as a medical device engineer for 25 years.
What do medical device engineers do?
Yeah. So medical device engineering, my time has been spent working mainly on vascular devices. So for instance, the common treatment of a heart attack these days is to deliver a stent into the coronary arteries. And that stent then opens up the artery that was closed by the heart attack and allows the patient to kind of resume their life pain-free with no more blockages in their heart. Spent a lot of time working on a variety of vascular devices, both big and small. Then I kind of was searching for something a little different. And the wife and I decided to maybe make a move out of California. And we came to North Carolina, where I found a job at another medical device company. It's a smaller company. It does a lot of startup type devices. So it's a lot of new product, research products. It could be things where you have a small company that's a startup company trying to get into a clinical trial with their new product, or you could have a research institution trying to do a very small laboratory study.
Robert?
Sorry?
Do you have a new product?
I don't personally have a product. The company I work for is what you call a contract manufacturer. So the clients come to us and ask us to make what they want. And that's basically what we do, is sort of whatever they ask us to do. So we kind of design the product, we make the product, we can even package and ship the product wherever it needs to go. So basically we're a full service provider.
That you've encountered, the best devices that you had to create or encounter?
The best one that I've worked on, there was a couple very successful products early on in my career that were used to treat coronary artery disease. Yeah. One of the biggest ones, however, I think I've spent the most time working on was a aortic stent graft. So people have a disease called aortic aneurysms. Mm-hmm. And what happens is the aorta starts to swell. The aorta is the largest artery in your body. It comes right off of the heart, and it basically pumps blood all over the rest of your body. And sometimes as you get older, the aorta can weaken and then start to expand. And that expansion becomes what's called an aneurysm. A stent graft goes in, treats the aneurysm, and takes the pressure off the artery, so the patient is less likely to basically die from a rupture. So I've spent about 10, 12 years working on that device. 3 to 4 years were in the early design phase. So I was able to put my name on that device, literally speaking, in a lot of ways, getting some of the intellectual property and patents around the design, as well as getting it into the clinic and being able to see and support doctors during some of the first clinical implants of that device. So that was a big
How do
device.
you put it into clinical trials though with people? How do you put it into clinical trials where you testing it on the people that are
Yeah.
that have these issues?
So what happens with most medical devices, it's common for the company to do a lot of benchtop testing. So as engineers, we're talking and interacting with the physicians, trying to get an idea of exactly what stresses and strains the device might see while in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So does it need to bend a lot? Does it need to bend a little? Does it compress up and down radially, or does it stretch and elongate? So we ask the doctors all these questions, and they sort of show us some of their clinical data that answers a lot of these questions. And then we develop bench tests.
They
And
actually
then
do clinical data on the devices before it goes in the patient.
we will do benchtop data,
Wow, that
and
is
then we will
amazing.
do some animal work as well.
Oh, that's
So
statistical, right?
yes, there's a lot of statistics involved. So when you try to ask the FDA if you can put this in a human, they want to see statistics that show this is going to work. And it's not just, okay, it worked once. No, they want to know it's going to work every time. So yeah, a lot of statistics involved, and a lot of development of the test methods involved behind the statistics.
You work pretty hard, I gotta say. I mean, that is amazing what you do. And so, tell me how you dip dabbed into becoming a mayor. How did you go from? Well, you both do
Yeah,
two jobs anyway, but
exactly.
how did you become a mayor? How did that genre turn into political genre?
Yeah, they're basically very independent things. So it's not as if engineering leads to politics, but politics has always been kind of an interest of mine. Back in California, I was looking into maybe making a run as a town supervisor, but quickly realized that some of my thoughts and ideas of how to do things didn't align with, I think, the political winds of that town. Coming to North Carolina, I soon discovered that there's a little better alignment with some of my ideas and some of what I would like to do, more closely aligned with some of the political winds within this town. And I was concerned, like a few other citizens, about some of the changes occurring. And I thought, rather than just sitting by like I did last time where I came from, maybe this time I'll get involved. And that's really how I did it, was basically deciding to get involved instead of just seeing changes and hoping for the best. I thought, well, maybe there's a chance I can get involved and actually have an active role in affecting some of those changes.
Yeah, you definitely are a people person dealing with politics. So tell me, when you got into this, what was the vote count?
So Waxhaw is a relatively small town of about 23,000 people. And I think the total number who voted was somewhere around 3,000 to 3,500. I think it was about 3,500 people that actually voted. There were only two people running for mayor, and I managed to win about 63% of the vote. So it was a pretty decisive victory, which I think,
200 people ran.
no, only two people ran.
I was hearing wrong. I was like, and you got the decisive vote.
No.
Oh my God, two people ran still. That's
Yeah.
still a lot. That's still a lot. So,
Yeah, it
I
was
mean,
it was a side by side choice.
were y'all
Um,
on TV and stuff? Like, did y'all have like state TV? Where
we
they
did a
ran
lot of
interviews?
online stuff. So
Good.
being a small
Yeah,
town, it's not like the TV stations are coming to look at what little towns are doing, and we
they need
certainly
to
don't
be
have a
afraid
local
of
TV
y'all.
station. Exactly.
They need to be afraid of y'all because I mean, come on, look at what you do on your second job versus mayor.
Exactly.
You innovate and you're doing a lot of infrastructure. Like, just think the possibilities are endless. What you can do being this type of engineer. and a mayor. You know, you can help build your city or your town or whatever. You know, you can build that, and you can make it into something that maybe big towns would need. You know,
Yep.
and that's what I think
We're
you're doing.
we're just trying to shape how it grows is kind of
Yes.
our big thing right now.
How are
Is
you doing that, Mayor?
I think I'm doing good.
Tell me
Um,
what you've been doing.
well, really, one of the biggest issues with most small towns here in North Carolina, in the Charlotte area, um, is dealing with the growth. Growth is a big topic all around the region, um, all over the state, really. North Carolina has been a destination state and has seen a lot of growth over the last 10, 15 years. And our small town here in Waxhaw is seeing it firsthand. And so we're dealing with a lot of the questions about how fast do we want to grow and how big do we want to grow. And that's kind of why I got involved, is that I fell in love with the town that I'm in. I like how it is now. I think it's really, really nice. I understand more growth could happen, but at what density of growth will it happen? And that's why I decided to jump in, was to maybe have a voice in how densely this little suburb gets populated. Do we want to have a bunch of apartments and townhouses, or do we want to stick with more of the suburban tract home type approach to development?
You know,
Um,
maybe your hotels can be like a small town type of revisit type thing, you know,
yeah,
versus getting new hotels and stuff going. I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. You're the mold or the clay to the this, you know. Um I feel like you should literally be able to grow your county or your city, but I feel like right now you you should let people come to it to see what it has to offer. Every city, every county, every town has something to offer.
yep.
And maybe yours could be like an antique type, you know,
Well,
city.
that's one of the things the town of Waxhaw, North Carolina, is known for. Is it kind of got its niche as an antiques shop, antiques
Yeah.
location.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
but we do have a lot of historic buildings in town with
Yes.
a lot of vibrant, healthy businesses with a variety of retail and restaurants and so forth.
Wow.
So it's a
And
nice little destination spot.
yes, exactly. Have you talked to anybody like from Charlotte about this? Because don't you have to go to special events now that you are mayor?
Oh yeah. No, folks from Charlotte and then lots of the other municipalities that surround Charlotte as well. And it's interesting to, you see some of the issues within the community. You run for office, you get elected, and now you start interacting with all the other community leaders and you start to hear these common themes. So, dealing with growth is a very common struggle for a lot of the municipalities in the area. Dealing with traffic, that's another big one. Um, Getting things to grow at the same rate of the population, such as schools and roads, is definitely a challenge. And kind of how to manage that is going to be one of the big questions for a lot of the little municipalities. And even Charlotte itself is grappling with those same questions and issues.
Yeah. I used to stay in Charlotte, and I used to stay in Concord, Kannapolis, and Salisbury.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about a lot. And those are small towns or cities. And pretty much, I would love for them to stay the same, but just have probably more infrastructure with the highway system
Exactly.
or something, you know. But you know, children need to learn about their histories, you know, and not let it be rebuilt, you know, in a, you know, to Charlotte can be rebuilt. Charlotte can be rebuilt. I remember when I was in Charlotte in the 80s, and the infrastructure just took off from there. You
Yeah.
know, I remember as being a young child, and it is, but your municipality or whatever, you need to literally keep that town, keep it. and sit up there and work with the big time players on ways to make it something antique or something different, but showing its history of what it should be. You hear me?
Yep, I still got you. Little
Okay,
static there, but I still have you.
sorry. I was, yeah, touching a chord, but yeah. So I mean, what do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's very important to try and retain the charm of sort of the smaller communities and the older communities. There are a lot of communities that, as regions grow, like Charlotte, there's a lot of neighborhoods and towns that just kind of pop up, and they're very, very new.
Mm-hmm.
Waxhaw is a little different in that it does have a history dating back to the late 1800s. It was founded in 1889,
Mm-hmm.
and it has several buildings downtown that date back to the early 1900s.
Mm.
So there is a history there. It would be nice to preserve that.
Yeah.
And I think the town leadership that came before me um, over the decades, really, for the last 10 or 15 years, they've done a good job in sort of preserving what is here and keeping the buildings and keeping the businesses and keeping good, healthy businesses within these buildings, because that's what's going to preserve the town and the overall look and feel of the town is keeping good, healthy businesses. So Waxhaw works very hard at keeping our businesses in the downtown area healthy and thriving through a lot of activities and events and such.
You know, I like that. I like the fact that y'all are doing that. How how do you feel? I mean, because you're like in the Library of Congress. You're like in the Library of Congress now. Your name. So whatever you do is going to be researched by history one day by a journalist. You know what I'm saying? In the future.
Possibly.
Yeah. And so they're gonna be like, what did he do for here, for your city? And I just feel like what is your plans with innovating things for the future? I know you don't want to do infrastructure like that. You want to keep it traditional. But what is your plan to leave your mark for the future?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we're trying to do is preserve the character of Waxhaw and ensure that it doesn't get turned into an overly densely populated area. One of the things that's going to be a constant struggle will be infrastructure, the roads, but also the schools. So I kind of would like to be known as, one of the people that sort of helped slow things a little bit, that allowed the roads to catch up, that allowed the schools to catch up, and so the town didn't become overwhelmed and didn't become sort of too big such that it becomes unhealthy. So the goal is to keep the town a healthy size that can exist within the confines of the roads and the schools that we have and that we're going to have for the next 10 or 20 years. The houses can be built fairly quickly, but when it comes to building schools and building roads, those types of infrastructure changes take decades. So we don't want the residential growth and the population growth to exceed the growth of those other key infrastructures, roads and schools and the like. So I think being able to make my mark in that regard and to try and control things a little bit in that regard, I think would make me proud.
Excellent. And what about the students? The curriculum that's sped up in the Charlotte metro area,
Yeah.
is it going to be applied to your districts?
Well, we have a slightly different structure in that the schools are run by the county.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a board of education that's countywide. So a lot of what you have in the Waxhaw schools is the same as what you have throughout Union County. Union County being the county just south of Charlotte. So it has its own sort of curriculum goals. It has its own set of sort of goals and objectives for what they want to continue to teach. The schools here in Union County are really good schools, and it was one of our big draws to come to Union County. My work is in Charlotte, my non-mayor work. My non-mayor work is in Charlotte, but the wife and I, we wanted to live somewhere outside of Charlotte. And we found that just to the south, there's a county that has better schools and kind of nice neighborhoods. So we decided to come to Union County. And a big part of that was the schools. So a big part of maintaining the schools, again, goes to the growth question. And as mayor, the best I can do is help work towards controlling the growth so the schools don't become overloaded and overwhelmed. When schools get overpopulated and you're talking about 40 students per classroom, the quality tends to erode. And that's one of the big things that we're trying to prevent by controlling the growth. So we don't want to outgrow our schools. Union County is not as wealthy a county as Mecklenburg County. So as a result, a new school is not coming anytime soon. There's going to be a bond on the ballot this November that will be an expansion to a school and a renovation, a major renovation to a school and an expansion. But that will just be one of many schools all over the county that is due for that type of renovation and expansion. So to get a whole brand new school, it's still decades away. So we want to make sure that we don't overtax the school system with an overabundance of population that can come from higher density growth. So that's really where it's all tied together.
Well said. What is your history with the schools? How old are the schools? Were they built in the early 1900s or?
It's a variety. So because Union County is a fairly old county and Waxhaw is a fairly old town, we do have some schools. The one I just mentioned that's getting the major renovation, it has buildings that date back to the 1960s. So there's a lot of that campus that's very, very due for a rebuild and a major retrofit. That the bond that's on the ballot is going to be, it'll pay for the design work that's needed to get a whole new building for that school. So, and then we have other schools that are only, 15 or 20 years old. So we do have a wide variety. And where we're at on the western side of the county, some of the schools are newer. And that's where municipalities kind of need to play well together, and we all need to work together, and we all need to grow together. And one of the things that can happen is if one area of the county grows too quickly, it can place a burden on the rest of the county because it's the county that pays for the schools. And so right now, the Board of Education and the county are trying to balance the needs of the entire county to make sure that one area isn't getting all the new stuff while everybody else is stuck with old stuff. And that's something as residents of the county, we just need to be patient and wait for the county to get to us when it comes to school expansions, which again is why we don't want to grow too fast. So we need to keep that in mind as we're looking towards our growth and our growth strategy and our rate of growth, more importantly.
So, where do you see yourself in the future, like when another way, like dealing with your engineer business versus your mayor? Like, do you want to do it again? Do you want to do it again afterwards?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
think
feel like you want to?
it's worked out well. One of the key features with engineering really is just problem solving and looking at alternatives and choosing the best alternative. So even in the realm of politics, there's still problems that need to be solved, and there's still multiple alternatives that can be chosen to solve a problem. So there's always multiple solutions, and being able to look at them critically I think is something the engineering mind is good at doing, is kind of looking at the issues a little bit more critically and a little bit more objectively than maybe others can or others tend to do. So I think they blend well together. They work well together, and it's one of those things where one skill set really helps the other.
Well, since we got less than 2 minutes, I wanted to ask you, how can the people reach you?
Well, we have a website. The town website is waxhaw.com, and just look over the town government and you'll find the Board of Commissioners, and I am listed there as the mayor of Waxhaw, and it's also just robert.murray@waxhaw.com. So if you have any questions or you want to know a little bit more about Waxhaw and what it's like being the mayor, or you want to reach out about being a medical device engineer, you can also do that. So yeah, you can just email me.
I want to thank you. Stay on the line. I want to thank you all
Sure.
so much for joining the show. You all take care, and as usual, stay safe, and I will talk to you guys another time.
Thank you.